No one reads thick books anymore, not because they are unintelligent, but because their attention has been shattered into 1,000 flashing pieces. Nearly 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, not because they're lazy, but because the system rewards survival, not foresight. The number of long-term investors is shrinking fast, replaced by gamblers chasing meme stocks, crypto spikes, and instant fortune. People aren't stupid. They've just been programmed to think in short bursts, trained to move without reflection, and punished for waiting. In a world designed to be fast, strategic thinking has become a liability. Patience is now seen as weakness. According to Microsoft's attention span study, human focus dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to just 8 seconds by 2015. That's less than a goldfish. And no, it's not evolution, it's conditioning. We've built an environment that feeds on distraction, that floods the mind with signals and penalizes any moment of silence. Notifications are no longer tools, they are traps. Every buzz, every ping is a tiny leash pulling your mind toward urgency. We don't scroll because we're curious. We scroll because we're hooked. Our thoughts aren't drifting, they're being dragged. Everything is urgent. The news, the deals, the deadlines. Even the things that should take time are rushed to meet imaginary clocks. And in this chaos, something critical is lost. The ability to think beyond the next hour, the next hit, the next dopamine spike. The modern world doesn't need you to think long term. It needs you reactive, exhausted, and distracted enough to never ask why. Because if you started thinking ahead, you might stop playing their game. You might stop buying what they sell. You might become inconvenient. That's why short-term thinking is not a flaw. It's a feature of the machine. The man who can't sit still won't challenge the system. He'll just keep running in circles, thinking it's progress. He won't build, he'll consume, he won't invest, he'll chase, he won't plan, he'll scroll. And slowly, the architecture of his life collapses into fragments of unfinished thoughts and abandoned goals. This isn't a discipline problem. It's a design problem. We've created a culture that glorifies the immediate, monetizes your attention, and exploits your hunger for now. If you slow down, you're labeled unmotivated. If you wait, you're seen as weak. If you plan, they'll say you're out of touch. The truth is, the world no longer respects long-term thinkers. It fears them. Because a man who sees 10 years ahead can't be sold garbage today. A man who waits for real value doesn't fall for empty promises. A man who builds slowly is dangerous to a system that thrives on impulsive consumption. But today, we are raised inside a machine that doesn't just fear those men, it breaks them before they ever awaken. It breaks them with infinite scroll, with endless distractions, with the normalization of busy. You're not losing your ability to think long-term because of weakness. You're losing it because someone profits from your short-sightedness. And the more distracted you are, the less dangerous you become. Not to yourself, but to the people who built this game. And the most disturbing part is this: it's working exactly as planned. This loss of long-term thinking isn't a glitch in the system. It's the system working exactly as designed. For those of you who have felt this, that dull ache behind your ambition, the quiet voice asking if this is really how life was meant to be, you're in the right place. Subscribe to this channel, follow along, because we're about to peel back the layers and expose the fascinating, terrifying truth behind this modern-day cage. 500 years ago, a man named Machiavelli wrote something chillingly relevant for today. In The Prince, he wrote that a ruler doesn't need to be good. He only needs to keep people occupied with fear and short-term rewards. Not virtue, not truth, not vision, just distractions. Carefully placed doses of panic and pleasure to keep the masses too busy to rebel. He understood something that modern governments and corporations now exploit perfectly. People who don't think far ahead are easy to control. When you're trapped in the urgency of the next notification, the next bill, the next dopamine hit, you don't have space left to question power. You don't have time to ask where your life is going, why the rules feel rigged, or who actually benefits from your exhaustion. This is not accidental. This is a form of political sedation, where pleasure pacifies and fear motivates, but neither allows for reflection. A population driven by fear and dopamine doesn't need chains. They'll stay in line themselves as long as they feel temporarily safe or entertained. And that's the point. Short-term minds don't start revolutions. They start arguments online, chase trends, and cling to comfort like it's purpose. They become excellent consumers, loyal workers, and forgettable citizens, all while believing they're making progress because they're busy all the time. A society that discourages deep thinking doesn't collapse. It becomes incredibly stable because no one's looking far enough to challenge its foundations. Think of the old stories. The prophets in the Bible didn't rush, they waited for guidance. Moses spent 40 years wandering in the desert, not because he was lost, but because a long term vision requires a long term journey. The Buddha didn't achieve enlightenment in a day. He sat beneath a tree for weeks, seeking stillness and presence, ignoring the very distractions that our modern world showers on us. These aren't just religious tales, they are blueprints for long term thinking. They show us that clarity comes from stillness, not from speed. The modern world wants you to believe you're in a race. It's a lie. The only race is to distract you from what matters. Think of the story of the tortoise and the hare. The hare, a creature of speed and immediate action, loses because he gets distracted. He falls asleep. He's impulsive. The tortoise, slow and deliberate, wins simply by staying on the path. He represents the ultimate long-term thinker. He isn't seduced by velocity. He's driven by a single quiet purpose. We are the hares, and the finish line is our own exhaustion. This system is not broken. It's working exactly as intended, because a broken system collapses. But this one profits. It scales, it multiplies. Not in spite of your exhaustion, but because of it. It's in every aspect of your life. Start with education. It doesn't teach you how to think. It teaches you how to comply, memorize, obey, and regurgitate someone else's answers under pressure. You're taught how to complete tasks, but never how to build a vision, ask real questions, or reject bad systems. School rewards correctness over creativity, urgency over understanding, and performance over purpose. We've all been conditioned from a young age. If you're feeling this quiet rebellion rising within you, you're already on the path. This is a journey of reclaiming your own mind. Make sure to subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth. The more people who understand this, the more powerful we become. Now let's dig even deeper into what's at stake. And here's the most subtle and perhaps most terrifying part of this design. It makes you believe the problem is with you. You feel guilty for not being productive enough. You blame yourself for your shattered attention span. You buy a meditation app to fix your broken brain without ever questioning the architecture that shattered it in the first place. They convince you the cage is your fault and then sell you a meditation app inside it. But make no mistake, this isn't chaos, it's choreography, and you've been dancing to their rhythm since the day you were taught not to ask why. Consider the historical parallels. The Roman Empire used bread and circuses to keep the populace docile, free food and entertainment. The modern equivalent is endless content and cheap credit. It's an updated form of control. Everywhere you turn, something is designed to trigger you. TikTok loops, flashing notifications, buy now, pay later banners. They promise comfort and steal focus. These aren't conveniences. They're traps engineered to hijack your attention and train your brain to crave the next micro hit of stimulation. What was once a survival tool, dopamine, has now been weaponized against you, conditioning you to seek what's fast, easy, and empty. Pew Research reports that 84% of American adults struggle to maintain focus without checking their phone. Not once, but constantly. This isn't just distraction. This is erosion of patience, of clarity, of the cognitive endurance required to think 10 years ahead. Our culture doesn't merely allow this, it glorifies it. You're praised for being busy, responsive, always online, not for being thoughtful or slow. Try saying you want to take time to reflect, and you'll be seen as unmotivated, disconnected, maybe even falling behind. But what they call falling behind might be the only way forward, if what's ahead is just more noise, more speed, more burnout. In this system, the reactive are rewarded. Quick with opinions, fast with decisions, plugged in 24/7, but never quite in control. The still, the ones who pause, question, observe, are ignored, sidelined, or labeled as outdated. In a world obsessed with velocity, we teach kids how to scroll before they can read and call that adaptation, not addiction, as if reaction is the new intelligence. But this isn't evolution. It's indoctrination into a mindset where slowness equals weakness and silence feels like failure. So what do? We start by taking a stand, not by winning an argument online, but by reclaiming our own minds. This isn't about productivity hacks or a new morning routine. This is about discipline, not for performance, but for protection against manipulation. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, didn't write to make people feel better. He wrote to make himself stay awake inside a world built to distract and seduce. He wasn't chasing pleasure. He was fighting for presence, for mental sovereignty, for the ability to think clearly when everyone else had sold that right. He said, "The greatest wealth is the ability to live without being enslaved by desire." He wasn't being poetic. He was being precise, because the man who doesn't need is the man who can't be bought. The man who can sit in discomfort is the man who can't be led by pleasure. If you want to think differently than the crowd, you must live differently than the crowd. Not louder, just deeper, just slower, just freer. You will be misunderstood, you will be mocked, but you will not be owned. Because the first step to escaping the game is to remember this one truth. What makes you dangerous is not how loud you roar, it's how silently you refuse to be tamed. It's time to stop chasing and start building, and that starts with you right now, making a choice to think for the long term.